The April 24th edition of the Triple Crown News Minute is presented by Kentucky Equine Research. Coming up, learn how KER develops its specialty nutrition products for racehorses. Ray, we're just days away from the Kentucky Derby, and in the coming days, we're going to have the final workouts from our field of 20. One horse, however, that it doesn't seem to matter how this horse works out is Maximum Security. He ran 3 furlongs in 42 seconds. I think I might be able to do that. Compare that to Improbable, who did 4 furlongs in 48 seconds. Clearly not a traditional workout for Maximum Security. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Well, I'm not really sure that it was a 3 furlong workout. Trainer Jason Service described it as a mile workout. I think the clockers just caught the last 3 furlongs. What he's really doing is he's basically galloping in a 2-minute lick. I think he went a mile in 1:57 or something. We know Maximum Security has speed. We've seen his races. He's got a lot of early speed. He's also tractable. He can rate. And all the trainer is doing since he won the Florida Derby is maintaining the stamina on the horse and building it because the Florida Derby was his first 2-turn race at a mile and 1/8, and this is an extra furlong, so he's going to need the stamina. But I'd say his final workout will probably be a little faster than the 3 furlongs in 42, but who knows?
Yeah, a mile in a minute 57, as you pointed out. I think a mile and 1/8 in like 2 something. But I still find this horse to be very interesting. People have kind of knocked his Florida Derby victory because he got a slow early pace. He was in the lead and he kind of just went on with it. But if you look at the prior race where he earned a Beyer speed figure about the same as his Florida Derby, he went 7 furlongs in front, 22, 45, 109. And then he finished it off by winning by 18 lengths. So don't tell me that it's all about that pace-aided Florida Derby. Maximum Security is a threat to win the Derby. And Jason Service said it himself, if he doesn't win, it's not because he's not fit. He's going to be in good shape when he goes into the gate.
Yeah, I think the reason there's a lot of skeptics, too, is that this is a homebred for Gary and Mary West. And he debuted for 16,000 maiden claiming. And obviously, he hadn't shown an awful lot in the mornings. A month before he debuted, they sold his dam at the Keeneland sale, I think, and didn't get very much money for her. So there wasn't. They weren't high on the horse. I mean, let's face it. To debut him at 16,000 maiden claiming, but he's done nothing wrong. And the last time I looked, the Florida Derby was the most important prep race to win.
And he beat all comers. He's undefeated. So I think he's an interesting horse. Who knows what will happen on Derby Day? I always like these kind of quirky horses that come into to the Derby. We've had in recent memory, I can think most of them have come from overseas. Like Lonnie a few years ago, he would buck every time he tried to go in the starting gate. He was just a kook. And then Thunder Snow didn't even want to run on the day. And then Mendelssohn with the raincoats and the ministers last year. There's always one kook in the bunch, and there might be 2 this year. Vekoma is a weirdo. I mean, you watch the way he runs, it's crazy. I would say that's the definition of paddling, the way he ran in the bluegrass, but he won.
Yeah, you don't often see horses with that kind of action, especially good horses. There have been a few. This is going way back, but the first one I remember was a horse called Tap Shoes. And, Vekoma was that action makes you wonder why. Is it a conformational issue?
Yeah.
I would steer clear of him in part because, look, I think that was a really weak bluegrass field that he beat. And the bluegrass has not been a very productive race as far as the Derby is concerned. So it will be interesting to see if he can be competitive. I don't think he will.
Yeah. Well, it is an interesting field, but it's starting to come together. We're going to figure out who the wise guy is in the next few days. There's always one. I'm not sure. I mean, Maximum Security could be that, but so many people are against him that I don't think that's going to be the case. Maybe I've heard some buzz about Country House, who on paper doesn't look like he's going to factor, but I keep hearing people say, oh, he's going to hit the superfecta, so maybe he's going to be the wise guy.
Yeah, he's a really good-looking specimen of a horse, and he kind of is. He came apart in the paddock before the Louisiana Derby, which, you know, the Louisiana Derby paddock is not quite as crazy as the Kentucky Derby paddock, so keep that in mind if you're thinking of backing him. But he's a horse that everybody thinks is going to improve, and I think there's some merit to that.
Finally, it's always about the weather forecast, Derby week. Right now, it looks pretty good, but could go either way, and that's usually how it is. I just don't want a deluge of rain all day like we had last year. We've had 3 consecutive wet derbies. You know, scattered thunderstorms don't bother me. It looks like it'll be pretty warm, but just not the deluge of rain all day. That's just crossing my fingers on that one.
Yeah, the only prognosticators that have been worse the last couple of years than me, I think, are the meteorologists for the local TV channels in Louisville. They got it wrong last year.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Triple Crown News Minute, presented by Kentucky Equine Research.
The Kentucky Equine Research Performance Center is a new facility for KER located in Ocala, Florida. Most of the research that we've done in the past with exercise has been on high-speed treadmills, which really gives you fairly intense exercise, but you can't mimic racing. There's only one way that you can mimic racing, and that's with a racetrack, so it puts us in a whole different realm in terms of being able to measure horses under racing conditions. The things that we're doing here, we're trying to apply to real commercial solutions that we can bring into our own product line that can help horses in specific disciplines. Whenever you're developing a new product, there's 3 particular things that you want to make sure that you have. It needs to be palatable, the horse has to eat it, but then it has to be safe as well. That it has to not have any adverse effects in the horse, and then finally it has to have efficacy. It has to solve a problem or serve a purpose.